Welcome to the Talkin Bout Podcast. I'm your host, TW, whoever you are and wherever you may be. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time with me. I know you got so many choices for your entertainment, for your information, for your music, for your talk, for your sports. And like I said, thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time with me. Real quick, before we get started, go ahead and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you are subscribed to the channel. Go ahead and hit the like button so that everybody know you like this video. Go ahead and get me a little boost up real quick. Go ahead and hit the notification bell so you get notified each and every time I drop some brand new fire content on this page. And most importantly, if you want to help out the show, the best thing you can do is tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's bring more people into the conversation. And yeah, let's get into it. So on today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about Roman Reigns' title reign finally coming to an end. We're going to talk about what's going on with the women in the world of wrestling. But first, we have got to start with CM Punk. It's been a couple of weeks since I was able to get a pod to you. Life's been a little bit crazy. It's been a lot going on, but I had to go out of my way to make sure I had to get to you before any more craziness takes place in the world of professional wrestling and CM Punk in particular, right? Let's talk about your boy CM Punk. So about a year ago, right, CM Punk made his triumphant return to pro wrestling when he returned to AEW, one of their 3,000 shows they've done in Chicago. And CM Punk returning to AEW, returning to wrestling, was just such a big, huge, crazy deal. Remember the guy crying in the audience, like, "Oh, CM Punk, I love you." Right? Like, if that guy is watching, shout out to you. That was really cool. Don't ever be afraid to show your emotions as a man. But also, if you cry in public, you know we're going to get you. It is what it is. But yeah, it was a big deal, man. It was a big deal. You know, CM Punk coming back, very polarizing, right? Because so many people felt a way about CM Punk from when he left WWE. A lot of people don't like the way he left WWE. A lot of people just don't like the fact that he left WWE. Now, me personally, I am a natural dissenter. I'm a natural dissenter, so I don't typically just go along with what everybody's thinking or what everybody's saying. I'm also, in any situation where it's labor versus employer, I'm typically going to be on the side of labor, right? Like that's just the way I get down. But in the case of CM Punk versus AEW, I mean, this story has taken so many twists and turns. Let me say this. When CM Punk had his beef with WWE, a lot of the WWE people were saying the same thing. And when I say WWE people, I mean like, you know, Triple H and the John Cenas and everybody. And their thing was this. They were saying, "Look, Punk, you're causing all this stink. You're making all this noise. And you say you want change. But really, all you want is to be the star. You want to be the guy on top. And you're complaining about change. But really, what you call change is if everything is all about you," right? That was their argument against CM Punk then. And if you look right now at the way this stuff was going down recently with him and AEW, listen, there's an old saying, right? If one person says something about you, that's their opinion. You know what? If two people say something about you, maybe that's two people's opinion. But if everybody is saying the same thing, or if almost everybody is saying the same thing, it might be time to look in the mirror, because what they're saying probably has some truth to it, right? So this whole idea about CM Punk being, you know, not easy to work with, not getting along with people, these themes seem to be reoccurring, right? And like just re-popping up. You know, the man went out on TV, you know, he's supposed to be building up to a match with Jon Moxley. And what does he do? He starts off his promo by calling out Hangman Page, right? He calls out Hangman Page, and then when Hangman Page doesn't come out, he says, "Oh, that's coward shit." So he calls Hangman Page a coward. knowing that Hangman Page was not supposed to come out. So you went off the script to call out one of your coworkers and try to make them look bad to the audience who had no idea what was going on. And then if that person were to, come out, then they look like they're being unprofessional too, right? So you do this publicly. So you publicly air your backstage grievance in front of everybody, right? Just, okay. All right, cool. Then, as the week goes on, you start hearing more and more reports that CM Punk is unhappy. CM Punk is so unhappy, he threatened to walk out. He threatened to quit. Damn, where had we seen this before? Now, again, I'm not a CM Punk hater. I don't have anything against CM Punk. But the reality is, this is the same behavior resurfacing, right? Like, this is the same behavior resurfacing. And at this point, I don't even think you could, I don't even think you could say there's a possibility that this is just somebody hating on him, right? Because when we were talking about CM Punk in WWE, yeah, of course, there was the obvious possibility that he was just getting hated on because, WWE could be very, very petty, right? Like, the fact that he got his pink slip on his wedding day, that was not a coincidence. That was not an oversight. That was pettiness. That was page 1 in the book of petty, because that's how WWE gets down, right? That's how they do things. So he had every right to, feel mad and bitter, about the things that they were throwing back at him. But the fact that you're having a similar set of relationships, right? A similar set of interactions with a whole different set of people in a whole nother company 7 years later, that's about you, my boy. That's about you. That's about you and the way you deal with people or the way you don't deal with people, right? So then as the week goes on, you start to see a couple of tweets coming from, the people who are closest to CM Punk, right? We know like FTR, right? Those guys are tweeting and it's like, oh, CM Punk looks so unhappy. And then CM Punk's putting out, a couple of tweets or giving interviews saying how he's the happiest he's ever been in his career. And you know what? You might be the happiest that you've ever been in your career and still be miserable as hell because you might just be a miserable type of cat. Like, I mean, that's totally possible. That's totally possible. And again, this is not me taking digs at CM Punk. I don't have anything against CM Punk. I don't feel one way about CM Punk or the other. Like, I wish everybody happiness. But if you have people who constantly find themselves unable to be happy, it can't always be everybody else's fault, right? So CM Punk made all the news in the world by coming out, expressing his unhappiness, and everybody knowing, that CM Punk had beef in the AEW locker room. Then we get to this past week's episode of Dynamite where, and I'm going to talk a little more about this later, but the main event for All Out was supposed to be CM Punk versus Jon Moxley to unify the AEW championship and the AEW interim championship, right? CM Punk was the champion. He got injured, broke his foot. He had to go away. Jon Moxley became the interim champion. And in CM Punk's absence, Jon Moxley has been out here putting on fantastic matches, bleeding like a damn pig each and every week, every opportunity he can. But while it might, seem a little over the top, all the bleeding that goes on in every Jon Moxley match, you got to respect that as a fan, that he is giving this much for our entertainment, right? Like, you got to respect that. You got to respect that on a human level. So as a fan, if you're looking at this, you got to say, Jon Moxley seems like a deserving champion, right? Like, he's still got a big name from his time in WWE. He's certainly earning credibility with the fans of AEW. If you are a fan of AEW and you had never seen Jon Moxley as Dean Ambrose in WWE, you could still be a huge fan of Jon Moxley right now just based off what you've seen him do in AEW. So there's, I'm sure, a big portion of the fan base who felt like even though CM Punk was back, Jon Moxley should still be the AEW World Champion. But we all know, right? Like, if you guys remember the media scrum where, Tony Khan was losing his mind defending why CM Punk is so important to AEW, we know that Tony Khan sees money in CM Punk as the head ornament of AEW. So what does that mean? That means that more than likely, Tony Khan wants CM Punk to be the man carrying the AEW World Championship. So that means that Jon Moxley was giving that title back to CM Punk, whether he liked it or not, right? Like that was just kind of an inevitability. So there we have a big, huge main event set up for AEW All Out. We have the guy who's been, bleeding, literally defending the AEW World Championship versus the guy who, had the title, feels he deserves it, and we know that's the guy the company wants. That's a lot of great stories right there. And honestly, that's the most interesting main event AEW could have possibly put on. But for some reason, Tony Khan decided to do that match on free TV on AEW Dynamite last week. Now, my question was like, is Tony Khan just drunk on ratings? Like, why in the world would he give away the only main event that had me considering going in my pocket and buying All Out? That's the only main event they could have possibly done that would have me considering buying an AEW pay-per-view. And that's not a dig to AEW. I just have never bought an AEW pay-per-view because they haven't had anything that has seemed so interesting to me that I would go in my pocket and pay for it. This was one where I was actually considering going and paying for the AEW pay-per-view. But instead, you give away the match on free TV. Now, you got this match that people want to see. Do you think they went out there and put on a 30-minute classic? A 20-minute banger? A 10-minute really fun match? No. They put on a 3-minute squash. And I could not believe it. The story they were telling is they come out and they have a flurry of offense. CM Punk kicks Jon Moxley in the head, but in kicking Jon Moxley in the head, he spins on his foot and re-injures his foot. So he goes down holding his foot. Then he gets up. Jon Moxley clotheslines the hell out of him, picks him up, gives him the double arm DDT 2 times, and he pins him in a squash for a world title that I have not seen a squash that bad since Brock Lesnar beat the hell out of John Cena at Survivor Series back in the day, to kick off his run as the Unstoppable Beast. Now, for me, I was just like, why? I came away asking why. Why would you do this? Right? Like, I see the story that you're telling, right? Like Punk's injured, so that's why he lost. And then they got this shot of Punk as he was walking away, and you know that there's some conflict going on in Punk. So what does that tell me? That tells me that this is probably going to be the start of a CM Punk heel turn, right? We're going to get CM Punk coming back, and everybody's cheering while he's hurt, being carried off to the locker room, and he's like, "How could you treat me like this?" You can see where this is going. So if that's the way that they're telling this story, right? If that's where they're going with CM Punk, like, fine, more power to you. But I don't know, man. It's just, it just, the way this match was done, CM Punk didn't come off looking strong. He didn't come off looking like a credible champion. He didn't come off looking like he deserved a rematch. So if the plan was to do the injury angle and take CM Punk off TV for a couple of days while he gets ready, so let's say he's going to come back on this week's Dynamite and re-challenge Jon Moxley, and they say they're still going to do this main event at All Out. This is still going to be the main event of All Out. Why the hell would I want to see it? Why the hell do I need to see it? If we already know that CM Punk is no match for Jon Moxley, and coming out of that match, coming out of the way that played out, why would we think CM Punk is any match for Jon Moxley? CM Punk can't hang with Jon Moxley. right? There's no reason for us to think CM Punk can hang with Jon Moxley. CM Punk got smoked. CM Punk got smoked. It wasn't even close. It wasn't even a little bit close. So if CM Punk got smoked so bad trying to go against Jon Moxley, how do you justify doing a rematch between CM Punk and Jon Moxley? I mean, like, you could say, okay, CM Punk was injured, but since when has the injury angle been an excuse for running back a rematch? This is pro wrestling. They don't do that in boxing. They don't do that in MMA. They don't be like, oh, John Jones hurt his leg, you got to give him an automatic rematch. No, it doesn't happen. That's not how it goes. So the way that this story was told, nobody came out looking stronger. Jon Moxley didn't come out looking stronger for destroying a hurt CM Punk. And CM Punk certainly didn't come out looking stronger for being so weak he can't even throw a kick without re-injuring his foot. Like, this was a lose-lose situation. Nobody came out of this looking better. So you gave away the main event that I would have paid for. Not only did you give it away for free, but you blew it off in a way where I don't even want to see that match again. If you do that match for free again, I don't care about it because it was so poorly done this time. Why would I care about seeing another CM Punk Jon Moxley match? Why? Why would I want to see that? Again, there's no competition because from what I just saw, CM Punk got smoked. So why would I want to see CM Punk go against Jon Moxley again? What good does that do me? You know what I mean? To spend my time and watch CM Punk get smoked again. So if you're a CM Punk hater, then this has last week's Dynamite had to be the day of all days. And I saw a bunch of people posting online just, oh man, ding dong, the witch is dead. Like, people were happy, celebrating the demise of CM Punk. Because a lot of people just don't like CM Punk. They don't mess with the boy like that. So CM Punk, he's not getting along with his coworkers again. He got smoked to lose the AEW championship. And where do we go next? Right? I mean, I think a lot of AEW fans have already kind of fantasy booked out where we thought this was going. We thought CM Punk was going to defeat Jon Moxley to unify the AEW championships. We thought MJF was going to come back from his suspension and challenge CM Punk. And then MJF would be the one to get the title back from CM Punk, which is like proxy for saving the AEW fans from a WWE guy, right? And then we'd be off to the races with MJF as your champion, which, by the way, let me say this. MJF as AEW World Champion has limitless possibilities, right? Like, I mean, like, MJF is not a guy who, once he has the title, there's no more story. Because MJF is a world-class trash talker, right? This dude, he's got such a foul mouth, you know what I mean? That's his whole gimmick, right? And because he can do that, right? He could talk you into wanting to see him get his face kicked in no matter who he's going against. And like, so many great entertainers have done that, right? Like Floyd Mayweather, right? Like Muhammad Ali. This is a classic thing. If you got a bad guy who can talk so much trash, people will pay repeatedly because they want to see him lose. So MJF as AEW World Champion is a gold mine. It's a gold mine. You know what I mean? So, but the question is like, how do you get there? How do you get to a point where MJF is getting that title? Is MJF going to get it off Jon Moxley? It'd be interesting. But the natural progression seemed to be for MJF to get it off of CM Punk. So if that's not where you're going, I'm curious. You know what I mean? I'm curious as to how this is going to play out. But as far as, the CM Punk's world title storyline, they've killed it for me. I got no interest in seeing where this is going forward. One thing I am interested in seeing going forward is what the hell is going on with AEW backstage. I mean, there appears to be a lot of confusion in AEW. There appears to be a lot of drama in AEW, and it appears to be spilling out into the on-camera product. Like, there's just so many things that's just weird. So if you guys were paying attention, there was backstage reports that Eddie Kingston got into a physical altercation with Sammy Guevara. I've heard every version of he pie-faced Sammy Guevara to he folded Sammy Guevara. Why? Because Sammy Guevara cut a promo where he called Eddie Kingston fat. What? You physically attacked someone because they called you fat in a wrestling promo? Like, yo, what are we doing? There's another report that Thunder Rosa was allegedly hiding in a bathroom because she was afraid of Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter when she, had a match with Jamie Hayter, and Jamie Hayter got her nose broken while giving Thunder Rosa a brainbuster. Now, Thunder Rosa has since gone on Busted Open Radio, and she's refuted that claim. She said she doesn't hide from her problem, says she's a trained fighter, she don't run from nothing, okay? So Thunder Rosa says that's not true, but the fact that there's even some sort of rumor like that going around, right? Like, that doesn't speak well of the management situation, of the backstage situation in AEW, right? Like, why is this a thing? Why are reports of people getting into fights and having to hide from other wrestlers a thing, right? Like, it's public knowledge that Britt Baker doesn't like Thunder Rosa, and probably vice versa, right? Britt Baker goes out every chance she gets and she throws little jabs at Thunder Rosa on the mic. So you got stuff like that. You got CM Punk out here throwing jabs at Hangman Page, going off script. So we got all of this stuff, that's unplanned happening. And again, like, for the fans, this is not only confusing, but the fans are getting to a point where they're starting to lose trust. They're starting to lose trust in Tony Khan. And, like, again, I just detailed the way they completely blew that awesome opportunity at a main event between Jon Moxley and CM Punk. They can announce another Jon Moxley CM Punk match this week on Dynamite to happen at All Out. There's no way you can rebuild the interest after we already saw you waste an opportunity at us to see Jon Moxley versus CM Punk. If you're watching this right now in the YouTube, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead. Let me get them likes up on this post. Make sure you hit the subscribe to this channel, and make sure you hit the notification bell. So, all of this stuff going on with AEW, listen, in a nutshell, fans are losing trust in Tony Khan. They're losing trust in AEW. And I hate to make this reference because I'm a Southern guy, right? I grew up in North Carolina. Okay. WCW was my joint. NWA was my joint. But this is starting to look like WCW in the worst possible way. Like WCW at the end, like 2000 WCW, like this type of confusion. That AEW Championship unification match between Jon Moxley and CM Punk, you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me of that finger poke of doom, right? For those of y'all who don't know what the finger poke of doom is, there was Kevin Nash ended Goldberg's famous streak, and instead of Kevin Nash defending the title, they set it up where Kevin Nash, they advertised a Kevin Nash Goldberg match, but then they did an angle where Goldberg got arrested, so he wasn't in the building. But Hulk Hogan came back and he decided to challenge Kevin Nash. And instead of having an actual match, Hulk Hogan just poked Kevin Nash in the chest, and Kevin Nash fell down, and Hulk Hogan pinned him to become the world champion again. It was one of the worst things that ever happened in wrestling. Fans hated it. And that's kind of how I feel about this, right? So, listen, AEW, when you got the opportunity to do something good, take that opportunity. Don't, abuse the fans' loyalty. Don't abuse the fans' trust, because that honeymoon period is probably just about up. The honeymoon period is probably just about up. So if I was AEW, I would take a minute to get my booking right. Swig a beer for the working man. If there's any kids watching, that's water. It's just water. I keep it in this bottle because I like to drink out of dark bottles. I drink my water out of dark bottles because it keeps it colder. Okay. So it looks like Roman Reigns' title reign is coming to an end. They got a show in Cardiff, Wales on Saturday of this week, the Clash at the Castle. And if you pay attention to the story that's being told, the only story they're telling is Drew McIntyre's story. On Roman Reigns' side, they've been telling the story that he's vulnerable if you take the Usos out of the equation. They've been telling the story that he hides behind, the Usos and Paul Heyman. And this week on SmackDown, they're celebrating 2 years of Roman Reigns as the world champion. Why are they celebrating 2 years of Roman Reigns as the world champion? Because he's dropping the title this Saturday. If you've been paying attention to WWE social media, they've been putting out video after video after video celebrating Drew McIntyre's journey to becoming WWE Universal World Heavyweight Champion. All the story they've been telling has really been about Drew McIntyre. Even with Karrion Kross, they've been teasing and hinting at Karrion Kross having an issue with Drew McIntyre. So we know that coming out of Clash at the Castle, the program is going to be Karrion Kross versus Drew McIntyre. The question is it going to be a title feud or is it going to be, an undercard feud? Now, I think, by the way, if you look at this past week on SmackDown, the way they ended the show was Roman and the Usos left Drew McIntyre laying. Roman took a chair and sat it over Drew McIntyre and was posing with the titles. And I was like, this is classic WWE. Before the pay-per-view, the person who gets left laying usually wins at the pay-per-view. So again, they are telegraphing a Drew McIntyre win. Now, could this all be a smokescreen? Maybe. Or maybe this is just the way they tell stories. Maybe this is just the way they tell stories. And, again, it looks like Roman's title reign is coming to an end on Saturday. And listen, I don't have a problem with his title reign coming to an end. I wouldn't have a problem with him keeping the title. I do know, though, that Drew McIntyre as champion, there's nothing exciting to me about Drew McIntyre as champion. Like, I'm not in any way looking forward to, yes, Drew's going to get another shot with the title. Let's see what he does with it. Like, come on, who cares? I like Drew McIntyre. He's just not an interesting character. He's not an interesting character. I know WWE loves him because, he looks like $1 million, yada, 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 all that stuff. But I don't know. I just don't find Drew McIntyre interesting. So hopefully what they do is Drew McIntyre gets the win. Roman Reigns gets his noble defeat. He rolls out of the ring. And then we get a cash in by Austin Theory. And we go off the air with Austin Theory getting the heat of cashing in on Drew McIntyre. And now we're off to the races of what's going to happen with Theory as the unified universal WWE champion. To me, that's much more interesting than what's Drew McIntyre going to do now? Because who gives a damn? I want to check in on what's going on with my ladies in the world of professional wrestling. So we had, I would probably say the biggest news in, the most newsworthy event involving women this week was the crowning of brand new WWE Tag Team Women's Champions. And it wasn't who we thought it was going to be. I think we all kind of universally thought that those championships were going to go to Dakota Kai and Io Sky. Because they were, new, debuting at SummerSlam. They were with Bayley. They appeared to be in a high-profile spot. But lo and behold, they did the finish of the match, and the titles have gone to Aaliyah and Miss I Can Never Stop Smiling Raquel Gonzalez. it's a weird choice because, again, similar to Drew McIntyre, like, there's nothing interesting about them now they have the titles. So it'll be interesting to see, how they book these titles, if they can try to make them an interesting team going forward. I don't know. But speaking of somebody who needs to get that title up off of them, Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan is taking on Shayna Baszler this week at Clash at the Castle, and they cannot get that championship off of Liv Morgan fast enough. This has not been a good title reign. I don't know what they were expecting, but the whole Liv Morgan and I love this and this means so much to me, that ran out of juice real quick. And fans, they started booing her. They started booing her when she beat Ronda Rousey in a real fugazi way at SummerSlam. And I think it was last week, Shayna Baszler kicked her in the head, and I don't think anybody booed her. Somebody might have booed her. But, I mean, when Shayna Baszler kicked Liv Morgan in the head, it didn't feel wrong. Okay? So, I'd love to see Shayna Baszler carrying that title. I think, she's a straight up badass, and she'd be a great person to be the SmackDown Women's Champion. Like, there's just, there's no way around that one. Now, another question I have is, where is Bianca Belair? I feel like they've been using Bianca sparingly. Now, I know that she is, the captain of her team with Alexa Bliss and Asuka. By the way, there was a part where Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and Bianca Belair were walking towards the ring. And I was looking at that shot of the three of them, and I was just thinking to myself, man, look at all that talent and Alexa Bliss. And I'm just like, you standing next to Asuka and Bianca Belair, you standing next to two of the most talented women to ever wrestle in WWE, and Alexa Bliss is just there. She's like, hi, I'm Alexa Bliss. So there's that. But Bianca Belair, I feel like she's been getting used in a very funny way. When Bayley and Dakota Kai and Io Sky first showed up, that first week, they kind of made the whole show about them trying to press their way onto the show and about Bianca kind of being the force to fight them off. But since then, Bianca's only been in one segment of show. She came out last week when Trish Stratus was there, and they had her, take the mic and say all the nice things about Trish Stratus. So by the time she was finished, everybody was cheering for Bianca, and that's great. But I want to see Bianca get that John Cena push. I want to see her get that the way they booked Drew McIntyre last time he was champion, where I'm just kicking every ass in sight and there's nothing y'all could do with me. Because that's what feels real for Bianca Belair. It feels like that's what feels like it's realistic for Bianca Belair. So I want to see more of that with Bianca. And until you're booking Bianca in that way, it's not going to feel right to me. So just having her kind of as, she appears, once a show, she comes out, does her segment or whatever. Man, I want to see more of this show be centered around Bianca Belair. I think she's talented enough, charismatic enough, athletic enough, beautiful enough to carry that kind of a load on this show. So do more with the EST of WWE. All right. Now, from an Impact Wrestling standpoint, a little piece of news surfaced last week that I think Impact Wrestling might want to be worried about. And that news is that Deonna Purrazzo, her contract is up for negotiation. Now, Impact has not been a place that's been great about paying people when they want to get paid. I mean, usually when somebody wants to get paid, that's the last you see of them in Impact. And Deonna Purrazzo, I think Deonna Purrazzo and Impact had a very mutually beneficial relationship, right? Like, Deonna, she left NXT because she didn't feel like they were using her right. Impact needed, an influx of talent and star power into the Knockouts division. And really, they were a perfect match for each other. Since Deonna has been in Impact, she's had amazing matches with Jordynne Grace. She's had an amazing feud with Mickie James. That was one of the best feuds in wrestling last year. And she had the whole run of being like, you know, the belt collector, the champ. She was the Impact Knockouts champ. She was the Ring of Honor champ. She was the AAA champion. And listen, that's a pretty good run, right? She basically did the Kenny Omega thing. And for Impact Wrestling, you got to have someone who was undeniably in the conversation as one of the best in the world on your women's roster. So if you're Impact, I think Deonna Purrazzo is the person you should come to the table, meet her where she wants, and she can be somebody that your company can build around going forward. Now, that's a question of if Impact has any plans to build going forward, right? Like, from everything I could tell, Impact looks to be just happy putting on a wrestling show from week to week. And if that's the case, then why would you spend the money to pay anybody and make them exclusive? But Deonna Purrazzo is certainly worth it if they were going to do such a thing. All right, one more thing before I get going here. I didn't want to keep you guys too long, but everybody was kind of going crazy last week over this new verse that Jay-Z dropped as part of DJ Khaled's God Did, not mixtape. His album's called God Did, but the song is also called God Did, and it's Rick Ross, Lil Wayne, and Jay-Z on the same track. Now, listen. I told y'all before, I'm a natural dissenter. I don't go along with the crowd, what everybody's saying. But damn it, Hove killed that verse. Hove killed that verse. The verse is almost 5 minutes long. And he just goes, it's not the type of flow like on Hovey Baby, where he's just like, you know what I mean? Like just killing you with the cadence and the, you know, the quick little punchlines and this and that. It's just more about, it was very introspective. It was personal. And to hear that from him at this stage of his life, at this stage of his career, is really, really dope. And it always feels great to get that kind of insight. But I don't want to actually, you know, shy away from the verses that Rick Ross put on there. That was a great verse. Ross, you know, he's a rapper who I really, really like. He hasn't been, you know, as big since, you know, those really big albums he had in kind of, you know, I'd say 2017 was the last Ross album where I was really like, oh man, I gotta check this out. But then there was a verse from Lil Wayne, and that verse wasn't as good as Jay's, but that was a good ass verse, man. And one of the things I really love about that Lil Wayne verse, right? Lil Wayne, he had a line where he says something like, the culture is all me, dreadlocks, face tats, I'm the apex. What did he say? He said, I say, what up, twin? And they wave back. And I'm like, dog, the dopest thing about that to me is I remember when Wayne did his verse on that Destiny's Child song, Soldier. And to me, that was like a turning point in Wayne's career where he went from, you know, I'm going to be a niche, you know, Southern rap kind of cat to I'm going to be like top of the game, any regional, any diction. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's going to respect me. I'm coming for the top spot in the rap game. And to go all the way from there up to here, to a point where he's actually being able to reflect on his influence on the rap culture, his influence on the business, on the industry. I thought that was really dope, because Lil Wayne had some rough years in there where, you know what I mean, we didn't know if he would be here with us, you know, in 2022. But that whole Rick Ross album, that whole DJ Khaled album is pretty good, but that song is phenomenal. That song is phenomenal. If y'all haven't listened to God Did, it's worth a few minutes of your time to check out. Yeah, man, that album was incredible. I mentioned that I was going to listen to Game's album, Drillmatic. 30 tracks is just too much. There's just nothing to say. But there is some good stuff on there. There's a few shining moments on that track. On that album. There's a song he does about his daughter kind of towards the end. I felt that shit, man. I felt that shit. Like, that's just the way any man want to talk about his daughter, you know, to potentially the man that wants to marry her. You know what I mean? It's definitely worth checking out. But 30 tracks is just too damn much. Who are we kidding? That's just too much. There has never been a good 30 track album, and there never will be. All right. So that's all I got, man. I'm not going to keep y'all too much. We went about 40 minutes or so. Thank y'all so much for checking out the pod. If you like this, make sure you hit that like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you get notified each and every time I drop some brand new fire content on this page. And if you really want to help your boy out, go ahead and share this clip with somebody who you know who likes this type of content. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's bring more people into the conversation. Thank you all so much. Like I said before, you got so many choices for all your entertainment. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Until next time, I'm TW. Peace.